Hello and welcome, fellow sovereigns. I'd like to tell you a little story, a true story. So, back in 1930, a chap called Theodore Geisel, he was on a ship for 8 days coming back from Europe to America, back home to America. And during that time, the chugging of the ship got to him. This rhythm was in his head, and it induced him to write a book with that rhythm, that chugga book. And he thought, what a wonderful book. So he wrote this book and he illustrated it. And then he thought, well, I need a publisher. So off he went, 1930, and started walking the streets of New York for all the publishers. Knocked on doors, knocked on doors. He knocked on 27 doors over a matter of months. He was becoming very depressed because nobody wanted to publish his book, which he thought was amazing. Wonderful chugga rhythm. And so each day he'd go out and he'd knock on a couple of doors, get turned away, feeling more and more depressed. And so Theodore, after 27 times of being told, no, it's not going to be a success. It's a silly book. Nobody wants to read it. Nobody wants to publish it. Go and get a real job. 27 times. So the 27th time, he was going to give up. He walked out of the last publisher, number 27, walking down the street, ready to burn his book and go and find something else to do, a real job. As it happened, as he's walking down the street in a fog, probably depressed, he was so enthusiastic about this book, he happened to bump into an old friend who hadn't seen for many years, at least 10 years. And his friend said, oh, hi, Theodore, what are you up to? And Theodore said, well, I've actually written this book, but nobody wants to publish it, so I'm on my way home to burn it and to rethink my career. The book was called And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. A really strange name. Why would anyone want to buy a book called And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street? Anyway, Theodore, this friend, as it happened, about 3 days before their chance meeting on the street, had become a children's editor. And he said to Theodore, would you like me to take a look at it? And Theodore said, nobody wants it. You won't be interested. And his friend said, look, let's go and have a coffee. Let's have a chat about it. You can tell me all about your book over a coffee. And it'd be nice to catch up. It'd be nice just to see what you've been up to. And I could tell you what I've been up to. And yeah. They went and had a coffee. And Theodore showed him the book. And this friend, I'm just trying to find his name, Guy McLean. Guy McLean said, I will publish this book. This is amazing. I really love it. So as they sat there and having a coffee. And so, as Theodore Geisel said, years later, he said, why were we on that same street, on the same side of the same street, in that moment? I could have gone on the other side of the street and none of this would have happened. But it did. And so, of course, you may or may not have guessed, but Theodore Geisel is better known as Dr. Seuss. And he ended up writing about 60 books for children. And they're worldwide. Obviously, he did incredibly well. Guy McLean published all of them. Guy McLean became the Dr. Seuss expert. And he took on this book and then another 59. So it's just a reminder that when we are wanting something, my my take on it is that yes, we've got to get out and do the footwork. We've got to get on the street, knocking on doors, or whatever we need to do to get to be where we want to be in our particular sphere. So Dr. Seuss sat down and wrote his book and illustrated it, and then he left his home. He walked the streets of New York and got turned down 27 times. He did the work. And then somehow along the way, something he could not have engineered, he bumped into a friend who had just become a children's editor. Now, all of that coincidence, I am sure, would not have happened if Dr. Seuss had not got out of his front door and gone knocking on other people's doors. And so, of course, then there's the big success, Dr. Seuss. And we think that Dr. Seuss just had a cruisy time of it. He just wrote these books and sold them. No, he didn't. It was a huge struggle. And even once they were initially published, it took some time for these books to take off because they were so different. But Guy McLean himself was so persistent. He believed in it so much. So between the two of them, that strong belief, they persisted. And so because of that persistence, the joy and the laughter and the education and the fun that millions and millions of people, of children, parents, other people have had because these two men persisted with something that was, it was a dream. And so I wish you one more day of door knocking. You never know. Today might be the day. Or tomorrow. One more day of door knocking. One more day of asking, would someone please engage with me in this project? Whatever it is. I wish you one more day and then a lovely meeting. You never know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, why it's going to happen. Just remember Dr. Seuss, 27 times knocked down, and then, woohoo, he bumps into a friend. In that same day, on that same street, on the same side of the same street, in the same moment. They could have passed each other 5 minutes apart. But if they both hadn't been out there on the street doing their thing, it would not have happened. Hiding away at home or whatever, it would not have happened. So I wish you another day of door knocking and watch the magic happen. And I bless you and all who sail in her.